There is nothing wrong with your podcast streaming service. We now control your device. This is not a test. This is Podcast of the Paranormal. Close your curtains and stay away from your windows. Lock your doors, turn off your lights. Get your snacks and drinks ready. Get to your basement or attic. The podcast is about to begin.
Hi, and welcome to Podcast of the Paranormal.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going, Gabrielle?
It's going good. How about you?
It's been busy.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to winding down a little bit.
I feel like we've been going since October, really almost nonstop.
We had Creature Feature Weekend. And then,
that was fun.
Then Halloween.
Yeah.
And then all the holidays.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to winding down a little bit this winter.
We've decided to do no investigations for the last few months. And
yeah.
We've still been so busy.
Yep. But we'll get back into it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it in the new year.
So today we're going to talk about
the Estes Method.
We're going to talk about ITC first.
Yeah. Instrumental Transcommunication.
Mm-hmm. So the basis of this episode is something referred to as ITC, or as Gabrielle said, Instrumental Transcommunication. The practice of using electronic devices to communicate with spirits or other entities. This begins around the late 1950s. ITC evolved from earlier mediumistic ideas.
So prior to this, you were looking at a lot of the residue still from spiritualism.
Mm-hmm.
And people were using different methods like table tipping. They were using spirit horns. They were probably still putting mediums in a cabinet in some way or form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we started to have electronic devices, and that kind of changed the field for everyone. Once you started to get an audio recorder, even records, I think people used.
It's even kind of interesting, the spirit horn that they were originally using, right? And that was basically like a trumpet.
Yeah, it was like a spirit horn, spirit trumpet. That's what they were called.
You'd be able to hear that sound amplified through the trumpet as it went from the wider end through the narrowing tube, right?
Yeah, into your ear. It's thought that it amplified the voices of the spirits to make them easier to hear.
Yeah, which is a pretty interesting concept, right? Because now we have those high-powered microphones. What do they call them? The parabolic mic?
Yeah. Basically
the same thing, right?
It makes me wonder when hearing aids were invented.
Yeah.
And why people couldn't hear spirit voices then with their hearing aids. If a spirit horn worked,
Well, allegedly. Who knows what they're picking up? They could have picked their neighbors up having a conversation, right?
Yeah, true.
So moving on. The term ITC was coined by Ernst Sankowski in the 1970s, leading to a broader field of spirit communication that became popular with TV shows and organizations like AAEVP, the American Association for Electronic Voice Phenomena.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see people that are using recording devices, TVs, computers, record players even, and that's their main ways to try to contact spirits now.
So before the 1970s, we had a fellow by the name of Friedrich Jorgensen, a Russian-born Swedish painter and film producer who brought us the dawn of the EVP.
Electronic voice phenomena.
In June of 1959, while attempting to record bird songs, specifically a Swedish finch, at his country home near Mölndal, Sweden, Jorgensen made a discovery that changed the course of his life. When recording his first phenomena, during playback, instead of just hearing birds that he was trying to record, he heard a trumpet-like flourish, followed by a male voice speaking in Norwegian about nocturnal birds.
So what do you think it was like for him? He's just listening to his bird sounds, and that's all he's expecting, right? Because that's all really that anyone has heard up until this point on a recording is what they're actually attempting to record.
Mm-hmm.
And then he now is hearing the trumpet. He's hearing people speaking. They're not speaking his native language.
Yeah, it's probably safe to note that the part of Europe that he's in is mixed. So you would have Swedish and German and maybe some Danish mixed in, right?
Okay.
English, because, it's close to the end of the war at that point.
Okay.
So it's probably good to note that, and you'll see when we get further on talking about what he's doing here, maybe he was mistaking it for something else, but he also spoke 4 different languages.
Oh, nice.
Like you and I, when we had an experience where we thought we were getting German.
Yeah.
I don't know German, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know what they were saying.
Right. Or if it truly was German.
Right. Because we were getting words here and there, like syllables. But he's putting this all together in real time, right? Plus it's he's interested in birds. He's trying to get bird singing, and he hears someone speaking in Norwegian about nocturnal birds.
Yeah.
So, what are the odds of that happening? It seems like it's kind of relevant.
Right.
But again, it could have been
like a little more than just maybe capturing your neighbor, because what are the chances you're recording a bird sound while your neighbor is talking about nocturnal birds?
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, the timing is really odd. So in subsequent recordings, he began to hear voices he identified as deceased relatives, including his mother, who addressed him as his childhood nickname, Friedel.
I think that's interesting that he got something very specific to him and personal.
So let's talk about some of the techniques he used to record this phenomena. He initially used a microphone and a reel-to-reel tape recorder. So if you're using tape here, and this first experience is recorded on tape, which it was, that's a little odd to get other voices picked up in there. Now, the only way for that to happen is you'd have to have some sort of radio interference that's interfering with the microphone, right? Which could happen. Highly unlikely, but it could happen.
Right.
Later, he transitioned to the radio method. This involved tuning into a radio station, like a very specific station is what he used. He used 1485 kilohertz, basically flooding the room with static while he was recording. This is kind of like almost like the dawn of the spirit box.
Right, yeah.
Which we'll get to in a little bit. So you're basically using white noise, or radio noise, introducing that into the recording. And then the idea is that spirits could use those frequencies, that noise, to embed themselves into the conversation.
And now this frequency also becomes known as the Jorgensen frequency.
It's worth noting that that frequency range is within the AM band and is designated for local and shared channels.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have multiple radio stations broadcasting via this channel, this specific frequency, on like a very short band, right? We're talking really localized, right? A portion of a city, something like that. They could all be using that same signal, right? So they're overlapping. So if you ever heard what it sounds like when you're switching between stations on an old radio,
yeah,
you could kind of blend stations when you're in between.
Yeah.
That kind of might be what's going on here. But he was picking up voices on this frequency specifically. So once again, the voices he heard were Norwegian, Swedish, German, English, and Russian. And they sound like whispering, and they sound like they're out of pitch. Paranormal researchers believe that this background noise, called stochastic resonance, provides the raw audio energy that spirits supposedly manipulate to form words. Stochastic resonance is a phenomenon where adding a specific amount of random noise to a system actually makes weaker audio signals easier to detect. This is interesting to me because when I am doing an Estes session, I'm kind of listening in between those channels when it's sweeping through.
Right.
And I am actually picking up the really subtle words, phrases, syllables, in between. And I don't really hear them at first.
Right.
Right? I'm hearing radio chatter at first, and it's really annoying to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I could tell sometimes it's a
that.
song.
When you're like, that's a baseball announcer.
It's a baseball,
that's
exactly.
the DJ. That's a song.
Right. And I tend to ignore those. The longer I'm sitting behind the headphones, I tend to start picking up on the stuff that's really low.
Yeah.
In that audio. But at that point, I'm kind of like in a hypnagogic state, almost like a trance state.
Right.
Where basically whatever I hear, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that adding random noise to the recording or to the audio environment, it's kind of like your brain is taking that and interpreting it in a way that you're listening to, words and phrases. And it's not perfect, right? We've sat with the spirit box before, playing the spirit box out loud on the speaker. Yeah. And what happens?
It's so hard to interpret.
Everybody's arguing, right?
Right. Everybody has a different idea of what they're hearing. And then when you're going back and you're listening, you're hearing another thing. It's so difficult.
You get a name. Oh, it said Tim. No, it said Jim. It's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
This all sounds like audio pareidolia. Audio pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon where the brain misinterprets random or ambiguous sounds, syllables, and picks up meaningful patterns, such as voices, words, music. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know about you, but I could really tell when it's music playing through the spirit box.
Oh, yeah.
But similar to visual pareidolia, which many people are familiar with, visual pareidolia causes us to see faces and inanimate objects and environments. The best example of this is the man on the moon, right? Everybody sees the face on the moon.
Yeah.
And that's basically your brain looking at something, a pattern that looks similar enough that it puts it together and says, oh, this is a face.
Yeah. Shapes and clouds.
Mm-hmm. Faces in the forest.
Yeah. On trees. I love to look for patterns, so I'll find faces in anything or like anything and everything. I can find it.
Your brain just does it automatically, though, I think. How many times do you look at photos, at pictures, and you see faces in the photos? You know what I mean?
No, I can see it in like grains of wood, floor patterns, different things like that.
I see it in noise. Like if you take photos and it's like a really noisy photo, low light level photos, I could see it in that. I could see faces. Like my brain wants to put faces into those, like the blocky, macro blocking.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a universal human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns, connections, messages, put them all together into something that the brain understands. You know what I mean?
Something that we know.
So if you're interested, you could go to archive.org and search for Friedrich Jorgensen or EVPs and EVPs, and you can find some of the audio and video clips. I believe there's links to quite a few YouTube videos that folks have put together. And to me, I mean, it sounds like signals are kind of like mixed in the radio. You're getting multiple, stations overlapping.
Yeah.
But these guys, back then it was just, they were kind of putting this stuff together and they didn't really know what they were hearing at the time, right?
Right. And you have to think like they started this and they've paved the way for other techniques. Right? So if this wasn't happening to them, we might not be where we are now. We might just be recording things on our radios, or, starting to use other means of recording to accidentally identify some type of EVP. And that brings us to Konstantin Radava. He is a Latvian psychologist who documented thousands of EVP recordings. He becomes a significant figure in validating spirit communication through these devices. Radava is Jorgensen's most famous protege. He comes and he expands on the experiments, and he also popularizes the term Radava voices before the term EVP becomes the standard that we know. So Radava sought to validate EVP through controlled environments, and he would conduct experiments in RF-screened laboratories. And this was to block out radio interference. He would invite in scientists, physicists, and theologians to observe his sessions. So I feel like that kind of almost made them like peer-reviewed little experiments. So he used different techniques like microphone recordings. He would leave a microphone on in a silent room, see what was impressed or recorded on the tape. I used to do this at my parents' house sometimes. I would use like an audio recorder and just let it go all night while I slept.
Little like Tyco cassette recorders or?
No, like an actual like audio recorder.
Oh, yeah.
Radio recordings where he would tune a radio to the white noise between stations, interfrequency static, and then something called the Radava diode, where he develops a specific method using a germanium diode or an audio shunt. This was connected to the recorder's input instead of the microphone. This was intended to pick up electromagnetic interference directly, instead of the sound vibrations that were typically picked up by the speakers, which he believed would then produce clearer results. Modern paranormal investigators, they actually are now starting to think that capturing sound anomalies using EMF or electromagnetic frequencies is a better way to pick up EVPs instead of using that traditional microphone that relies on the vibrations.
Yeah, he actually replaced the microphone with this diode.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an inline device between the microphone and the recorder. It was basically a replacement for the microphone. Next, we have Father Agostino Gemelli, a Franciscan friar, physician, and psychologist who reportedly recorded his deceased father's voice on a tape recorder by accident in the 1950s, predating Jorgensen's widely known work. He actually didn't realize he was recording an EVP until it happened, and once it happened, he kind of felt a little dirty about it.
Oh, wow.
He was a bit religious, and he feared he was committing a sin or experiencing some sort of delusion. So he spoke to Pope Pius XII. The Pope reassured him that what he was doing was not a sin, stating that they know of the existence of these voices as scientific fact. It's not related to spiritualism or occultism. It's fact. They've known about this, right? So effectively, they gave Catholic researchers the green light to explore this phenomenon. So let's talk about the 1952 incident.
Okay.
While working in a laboratory with Father Pellegrino Ernetti, Gemelli was troubled by a broken wire on a recorder. This is where the accident happened. He called out to his father, who was deceased at the time, for help, and upon playing back the recording, he allegedly heard a voice saying, "Of course I will help you, I am always with you." And he believed it to be the voice of his father.
Okay.
So he basically stumbled upon EVPs accidentally.
Right.
Because his device was broken.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is really interesting. It's like he calls out for it and then he's getting a response.
And he gets a response.
Like a call and a response. Like that's really interesting.
And that's how it works today, though.
Yeah.
That's how we do. That's, that's what the Estes Method is. You're asking a question and you're looking for responses, right?
So how do EVPs and ITC relate to each other? In the study of electronic voice phenomena, stochastic resonance, or SR, and audio pareidolia are often described as two halves of a single process. So one is a physical or acoustic event, and the other is a psychological reaction.
Right. So you have the thing that's happening, right, in the environment, the visual cue or the audio cues, and then your brain processing that data. That's obviously the psychological portion of it, right?
Right.
So basically, these two phenomena are working together to produce a result, which we know as EVPs, right?
Yeah.
When Konstantin Radeva and Friedrich Jorgensen recorded static, they were essentially creating a setting where these two concepts could interact.
So now we're moving to the 1970s. We see that ITC is born, instrumental transcommunication. A German physicist named Ernst Sankowski coins the term, and he uses it to describe communication via any electronic device, not just tape recorders. So any type of device that's electronic. By the 1980s, we're seeing modern technologies, experimentation with new devices like the Spiritcom, and this is claimed to be born from spirit instruction. So a spirit told the creator how to create this device. And we also see early computer-based communication. So the Spiritcom was an electronic device, and it was developed by George W. Meek and William O'Neill in the 1970s. It's designed to allow for two-way communication with the deceased. The device was based on a frequency modulation system and required a bioplasmic operator with psychic energy in addition to the technical components to function. So the creators claim success with this device, but it doesn't translate to other users.
Now, I have a question.
Okay.
How do they know that the person is psychic? That they're like, how do you go about picking those people out?
Right.
That's my first problem with this.
Right. Like, are they selling it in stores? And when people are coming to the register, they're like, are you psychic?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And they're like, well, then you can't buy this.
And I couldn't really find anything when I did this research on how he chose his subjects, right, for this. So that's the first red flag to me.
Yeah. So this device is using a few different things to operate. It's using a tone generator, which is emitting 13 different tones. There's buzzes, there's hums, all at the same time. There's a bridge, and the theory is that a spirit could use the energy to manipulate the tones, shaping the buzzing noises into human words. And then you're having the result. So on the recordings, you're hearing a very raspy, robotic-sounding voice. It's emerging from the constant hum of the machine. So think of modulated voices like the intro to Intergalactic Planetary by the Beastie Boys.
I had to throw that in there, sorry.
So then in 1982, we get the AAEVP, or the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena. This is founded by Sarah Estep, and it's made to standardize EVP research and raise awareness.
Which is a really good idea, I guess, because like no one really had any idea what they were dealing with yet.
Yeah.
You know, with this phenomena. So it was a way to basically take all these concepts and kind of combine them into a set of rules and standards.
Which I'm sure was helping.
Which it's helpful for anything that's like unknown.
So at this point, I think it's important to mention the different types of recording media and devices that we would commonly see people using. The first is an audio recording on analog tape or digital recorders, sometimes introducing radio static as a signal, and then that carries the voices. The signal is thought that it would aid in the process to help bring the voices out. We've also seen new approaches using microphones underwater, and the water in this situation is being used as the medium in place of the static.
It's the noise, basically.
Yeah.
I wanted to put that in here only because we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
We have a local spot that we've been going to that we get a lot of activity at. And what do we get there, Gabrielle?
Tells us to go in the water.
Well, no, other than that, oh my God. What do we always hear with the water?
Oh, voices.
It sounds like someone's talking upstream, downstream, and all around us. And I think it's just like a natural, again, audio pareidolia, right? Where your brain is putting that stuff together. We're going through all this stuff. I know it's painful. There's a reason why we're doing this. Because when we get to the Estes Method, we're going to see this kind of all come together.
Yeah. Do you want to take the next section?
Yes, I will take photography and video. Images of spirits appearing on TV screens, captured by cameras, captured on video. It's just another medium, whether it's on film or it's an SD card, whatever. That's how we record visual evidence. Many modern investigators, outside of television personalities, of course, are starting to think that video and camera evidence is extremely rare and often misinterpreted. So let's get to the misinterpretation portion of it.
Are you looking back into like pareidolia?
Yes and no. So with video, there's this thing called video artifacting. And basically what video artifacting is, wherever the environment is not good for the camera to basically pull in that light to create the images. Okay, so it's dark out, it's a low light situation. What you get is blocking, artifacting is what they call it. Okay, it's compression artifacting. It's the camera's sensor trying to put the picture back together the way it's represented, the way it's seeing it. So what that'll actually do is that'll take, I don't know if you're ever watching like a movie on streaming and it goes from being crystal clear image to all of a sudden everything is blocky. The image is falling apart.
Yeah.
That can happen in low light situations. And when that happens, the camera is actually adding stuff to the picture that's not actually there because it's trying to interpret the image and recreate it in the way that it's seeing it. And it can't always do that in a low light situation. So what you get is you can get these blocks that kind of come together. It might look like a shadow. It might look like it's not putting, especially if it's trying to shoot far away, it's not going to reproduce that image the way you're seeing it with your eyes.
So it's like electronic pareidolia.
Well, no, it's modifying
your
the image.
Electronics are looking for a familiar pattern.
Oh, you're saying the electronics are doing
yes.
it? Yeah. Well, the electronics are trying to put that image back together the way they think it should, the way they see it, right?
In that familiar pattern.
Don't think of it as like the camcorders are really thinking, because they're not smart. It's not AI driven. It's not smart. It doesn't know enough to try to put those pictures back together, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically doing the best it could with the data that it's receiving through the lens, and it's trying to put it back together in a way that it should reproduce the image. That's basically it.
Okay.
So you might see shadow play that's not actually there with your bare eyes, but it picks it up on the camera. And again, that's the technology. That's the recording medium. That's just what it could do. Now, you might have something like an IR-enabled lens, right? An IR-enabled camcorder with an IR blaster. And we talk about this all the time because our front porch security camera has an IR mode.
Yeah.
And what do we see with that constantly when we let the dog out? We see a little ghost dog.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that the camera has a real hard time with like silvers and grays. He's an old dog. He's turning silver. He's gray. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's almost
white.
Completely white. And when we open the door and let him out, we see us opening the door. We see this basically like it looks like a ghost dog running away.
Looks like he has no legs.
No legs, and it trails too, right? We've seen that on TV. I don't know how many times, where people see what they believe is their deceased pet.
Yeah.
And I think it's being misinterpreted. The footage is being passed down. The person that shares the footage either doesn't know what they're seeing or they're trying to pull a fast one. They know that's like another animal that they're capturing, or they forget about it and they look later at the recording and they're like, oh my gosh, what is that?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't like
I can understand
visual
that.
stuff because it's kind of, I don't want to say limited to the technology, but the technology does weird things when it's put in a less than favorable environment.
Yeah.
And
then we move into computers. They're receiving messages, images, and data through interfaces. And it's worth noting that we use computers to analyze evidence on a hard drive. And, using computer technology to gather data and analyze it. There's environmental scanners that can collect data throughout the night. You can download the data. You can use the PC to see if the temperature or the pressure is fluctuating, and does that correlate with activity you're experiencing? Is it at a specific time? And then there's newer approaches that are using real-time data collection, things like AI, speech recognition. They're also able to aid you in examining your evidence as well.
I just have to say that I do not like AI for this stuff. I think it's still kind of in its infancy a little bit.
Yeah.
It's designed to sort of come up with the best guess when it doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah, I feel like AI doesn't have a place here. Would it try to manipulate you seeing something, manipulate you hearing something? Because it thinks it should be there.
Yeah. So let's get more specific with some of the more well-known ITC devices.
Okay.
So let's start with the Spirit Box. You guys probably know that as the SB7 or the newer version, the SB11. These devices scan radio frequencies. You could set it to AM or FM, set the speed, and then you basically set it to sweep, forward, or reverse. The theory is that spirits can manipulate the white noise to form words and phrases. So basically, when this device is going, you get to be able to as it's sweeping through the stations. And of course, you could speed that up, slow that down, like I said, and basically play it back in real time. Some people do it with the headphones on, right? Some people do it with an external speaker so everyone could hear it. Mm-hmm. So the Spirit Box is a device that's used in ghost hunting to find spirit voices. It evolved from the early 20th century experiments by inventors like Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, who theorized about communicating with the dead via radio waves. Its modern form of frequency-sweeping radio was popularized by Frank Sumption with the Frank's box. This was done in the mid to late 1990s, 1995, I believe, where his device was allegedly built with spiritual guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So he claims that he had entities coming to him and telling him to build a device, a very specific device. He had blueprints for it and everything. He put it down on paper and he built it. This led to today's specialized paranormal research tools with rapid scan radios. You've heard of the Shack Hacks, which is a Radio Shack radio that I believe you cut like 2 wires or bend 2 pins down so that the contacts no longer connect to the main board. And basically that broke the radio so that the scan function would just continuously scan rather than stop at the next station when it finds one. So from what I understand, Frank's boxes were all different. Every one of them was slightly different. Some of them had crystal diodes in them. Some of them had different components than others, basically.
Yeah, and I think he used different exteriors too.
Yeah, he did. They were all built differently. And today, they're basically like a unicorn. If you get your hands on them, well, good for you. Yeah. Because there's probably only a dozen or so that exist on the wild today.
And they're probably going to cost a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And then next we have an Ovilus. I call this an Oculus, and I don't know why. So there is an Ovilus 5B. That's one of the most popular. It's a type of paranormal investigation tool. It's different from a spirit box. Instead, it translates environmental energy fluctuations like EMF, temperature, pressure. It makes them into words or sounds. And it's believed that this allows the spirits to communicate by manipulating the readings to select words from a built-in dictionary.
I don't like the Ovilus.
No, I don't.
I don't think I've ever used one. I've been around people that use them, but to me, it's just like spitting out random words.
Yeah.
And it's basically a little computer that in real time picks up data and interprets it. I don't know how it does it. I'm sure a simple Google search could rectify that, but I don't like them. And they're expensive.
Yeah.
So the Alice Box, a popular software-based ITC tool, often used on tablets. It monitors various sensors to produce words or phonetic sounds frequently used in professional UK investigations. Never used one.
Never really even heard of one.
So apparently it uses the gyros in your phone or your smart device and somehow interprets that data. I mean, you don't have an EMF reader on there.
Right.
You don't have a temperature reader on there. I mean, to me, it seems a little suspect. It seems like an app to me.
And then we have EVP recorders. They are highly sensitive digital recorders that are used to capture electronic voice phenomena. You will hear sounds or voices that are not heard by the human ear at the time of the recording. They're typically only heard when you're replaying the recording.
We have a few methods that we use, right?
Yeah.
So we use the long method where we basically sit there and record for like anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and then listen to the playback later on. It's too much to listen to like right after you record. But there's always like the short sprint mode that we like to do where we'll sit there and we'll ask a specific question or a group of questions and record and try to get a response. Those recordings will be like
a few minutes,
sometimes even shorter, right? We'll do like a 30-second recording.
Yeah.
And we'll use that to kind of like gauge what we're getting at the location, right?
Yeah.
First time at a location, we want to kind of feel out the area. We'll do that short sprint sort of method. See if we get anything and then know which areas to focus on. Ghost boxes. These are the custom guys. These are the ones you see on the TV shows. They're big boxes. They look like old-timey radios that these guys are carrying around, right? They all look different. They all have reverb effects on them, echo effects, and they always have like a higher powered speaker on it. They sometimes have controls to eliminate the static noise. So that's clearing up the words that are coming through. But it's basically a spirit box. It's a giant spirit box that's meant to be played out loud for everybody to hear. So that works really well for TV, right?
Yeah.
Especially when they could say what they think they heard, and then all you got to do is throw a subtitle up on the screen, and then you're basically suggesting to the audience that that's what you're hearing.
Right.
Half the time, I don't hear that stuff. I don't know about you, but I don't hear what they claim to be hearing.
No. So now we're getting to a point where there is growth within the ITC field and mainstream interest. So around the late 20th and early 21st centuries, ITC really gains traction through books, websites. There's Mark Macy's World ITC Association and popular culture. There's also many paranormal investigators that are using ITC methods to seek direct communication from the deceased. Many of the devices that were mentioned, they're very popular among a growing number of paranormalists, dark tourists, and investigators. Many, like the SB7 and voice recorders, they're easy to find, they're mass-produced. You don't need vast technological knowledge to use them. And they use batteries because they're designed with portability in mind.
Yeah, I mean, you could go to the Go Shop or Amazon or wherever, and you could, if you want to get into this stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to spend a pretty penny at first, but,
Right.
or buy one kit at a time, one piece at a time.
Yeah.
But again, all you need is a simple recorder. If you have a $50 voice recorder, that's all you really need. You can use your phone. Phones are becoming real popular now because
you have so
everybody
many
has
things
one.
in there. Yeah.
Everybody has one in their pocket, so.
You could take a picture. You could record video, audio. Yeah, they're perfect.
Yeah. So if you've stayed with us for this long, thank
you.
you. We wanted to explore the history of instrumental transcommunication and electronic voice phenomena to honor the pioneers who first brought these concepts to the world of the paranormal, to convey the relationship between electronic devices as an aid in paranormal research. We are looking to pay a tribute to those who took ITC communication, EVPs, etc., and developed our favorite method of spiritual communication.
The Estes Method. So there's no better way to start this than to tell you who developed it. It was created by Connor J. Randall and Karl Pfeiffer, along with Michelle Tate. They developed it in 2016 in the Stanley Hotel, of all places, in Estes Park, Colorado. And yes, it is pronounced Estes, just like Estes Park, Colorado, where it was created. From 2009 to 2016, the Stanley Hotel was offering public investigations. And that's when Connor, Karl, and Michelle were hosting these tours. They began to start investigating on their own as well without the public, and this was allowing them a more in-depth understanding of what was going on there. In 2016, they begin to film the investigations, and you can actually watch this on YouTube, Spirits of the Stanley. And it actually leads us to the creation of the Estes Method. It is actually on film that you can see them develop this. So why did they develop it? Well, Connor is quoted as saying it was born of boredom and invention. The creation is filmed, again, on Spirits of the Stanley on YouTube, and we're going to link that. And you can also read an article that Connor speaks about the development of the Estes Method as well.
Yeah, I'll put the links in the show notes.
So what is the Estes Method? It is noise isolating headphones. Think drummer's headphones like Vic Firth, that's what's recommended, as well as a blindfold and an SB7 recorder.
Yeah, so those headphones are really good because they reduce the noise by, I believe, negative 25 decibels.
Mm-hmm.
So that basically means that anything environmental that's going on around you, the person behind the headphones can't hear.
Yeah.
Like they have to have really, really good hearing to be able to hear anything that's going on outside those headphones.
Yeah. So if you're using anything outside of the Vic Firth headphones, the blindfold, and the SB7 Spirit Box, this is a modified version. There's also a few roles within the Estes Method. You have the receiver. This is the person with the headphones, and you have the questioner. Anything more than two people, as we know from experience, can get very confusing. It could help to have a third person. They could take notes. They could survey the environment. They can keep track of time.
Well, let's expand on that a little bit. Let's talk about what we mean about that, because that's something we're kind of, I don't want to say struggling with right now, but it's something that it comes up a lot lately. We did an Estes session. I believe there were, hold on, let me count my head here. One person was the receiver, and we had 1, 2, 5. Was it 5 questioners?
Yeah. Yeah.
And boy, does that get chaotic.
It does.
Especially if you don't set rules.
Right.
So it's important to set rules. Don't ask questions when other people are asking questions. Don't talk over other people, right?
Right. And I think it also helps if multiple people will be asking questions, you should wait for a response after a question before you ask a new question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give it time to respond.
Yeah. Like I'll wait. A lot of our sessions are just waiting. Like I'll ask a question and I'll wait for a response.
Well, a lot of our sessions are, a few different questioners at once going off with questions.
Yeah, but when it's just you and I,
yeah,
I'll just ask a question and wait.
Yeah, we've found that our best results are with 2 people.
Yeah.
One receiver and one questioner. It just simplifies the whole experiment.
Yeah, it forms a better conversation.
Yeah.
It's not as confusing.
Well, what it reminds me of is when you have multiple questioners, it's the same thing as not having the headphones and having the spirit box. Just play over the speaker.
Right.
You're not only fighting over what you heard,
right,
but you're fighting over your ability to ask the next question.
Right, right.
And if everybody's not on the same page and they're not giving the receiver the time to respond,
Right.
then it's just chaotic. You have 3 questions at once, and then when you get a response, it's like, what was that response to? Which question? You know what I mean?
And also, like, in situations where if we're on investigations in historic locations, and you guys don't really know the history, but I do, and we're getting answers, and you guys are going one way, and I'm like, oh, no, like, this person is associated, and this is how, and, like, I can direct the questioning based on that without really having to say anything to anyone.
Yeah, you see, that's when you have the expert. Say you're the expert, right? You're the person that knows the history. Mm-hmm. That's when you have to tell everybody else to shut up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, I know a little bit about this. I think I know where this is going. Just be quiet for a few minutes while I take over here.
Yeah, that's the hard part, because someone could say one thing and it could be taken 3 different ways. And, you know, you could potentially lose the ability to continue that line of questioning if you're not asking the right follow-up questions.
Right.
Yeah, and we even have recently had situations where the person that you're talking to is switching, like after every few minutes. So then you're really losing that ability to continue that line of questioning if you're switching to someone else that's communicating with you through the headphones. Mm-hmm. So it's important when you're utilizing this kind of method, before you're starting, determine what everyone's roles will be if you have a group of people. So why do we like this method? We like that you're able to get a more intense connection with the spirits, and it's something that we try not to rely on, but there are certain areas that it's kind of like our go-to, and there's also times where you're trying all of these other methods and nothing's working, so you're like, let's just try this and see if we can improve our connection, maybe make things a little bit more direct.
And it's just weird, and I really love how weird it is, because sometimes it's like you're getting direct responses that are completely related to the questions you're asking.
Right.
Other times you're getting direct responses, but they're all over the place. It's like, what is going on here with this conversation?
Right. It's almost like sometimes you're leading the conversation and sometimes they're leading the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending
really
on who
is.
you're communicating with or what you're communicating with. We do have some tips from a podcast with Connor and Karl for the receiver. You don't want to narrate what you're hearing. So don't say like, I'm hearing a man's voice say Tuesday. Just say Tuesday. Just what you're hearing is what you say. You don't have to get in your way too much, right? That's the beauty of this. Take yourself out of it. You just say what you're hearing. There's no expectations.
It's hard to do that too. If you watch Spirits of the Stanley, they do that sometimes.
Yeah.
They will say, hey, I'm hearing a woman's voice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't help yourself.
Right. Sometimes it's just such an odd thing that you're hearing too.
Sometimes it's really jarring.
Yeah.
Because you could tell when it's a radio station and when it's not.
Right. And I could see saying, I'm hearing laughing versus I'm hearing children laughing. You know, like to be able to clarify that. And especially dependent on your location too. Like if you're saying I'm hearing someone laughing and you're at, you know, at school and you're saying I'm hearing children laughing, that might be more important to the situation than saying I'm hearing laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten pulled out of it before when I'm under as the receiver, where I hear something and it just immediately pulls me out of it.
Yeah. So basically just think of yourself as the megaphone. You can do things like move your body, rock in a chair, things like this that would help relax you, help you get out of your own head. There's various scan rates in milliseconds over AM and FM, but we found that 200 milliseconds,
150 to 200, yeah.
Yeah, on AM band, that works the best. And it also seems to be the preference within the paranormal community as well. You're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel alone. This can cause paranoia. It can cause fear. It can cause you to feel on edge. It can cause you to be vulnerable. Some people like to hold the antenna. Some people hold the antenna to kind of turn your body into the antenna like a booster and kind of physically connect to the space that you're in. Some people, even when they get really deep into it, they start to match the intonation, the tone, and the accent of what they're hearing, which is something you can do, but you don't have to. I mean, you can say chicken instead of like screaming chicken or saying chicken in a southern accent. You know, you don't have to say it the way that you heard it.
Right.
So what are some things we like about it? We like that it will isolate you from the environment. So it kind of takes you out of the environment. We like how there's not a debate about what you're hearing on the spirit box, like with the open sessions. Now, sometimes that does happen when there's multiple people listening. They'll say, did he just say 3? And you're like, he said tree. And then there's also like a trance-like state that you'll enter, almost like electronic mediumship, which is something else that we really like about this method.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed is, I don't want to say the longer I do it, the more I do it, I kind of let myself get into that really relaxed state where I do become the megaphone. I no longer am intently listening for words.
Right.
I'm hearing them more clearly and they come out.
Yeah.
And that takes 10 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes for me to get into that.
I would say that's fair, 10 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like at the beginning I'm getting a lot of nonsense, but the longer I go, the longer I'm under, the more interesting it gets.
Yeah, and the more it's like direct communication in a conversation where it's like back and forth, back and forth.
I go from syllables and words to like full sentences.
Yeah.
The longer I'm under. So I start to pick up, I mean, I don't even know if I'm hearing what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying what I'm hearing.
Right.
But it just becomes more fluid at a point. I know I'm in a state where I'm kind of like, it almost feels like I'm half asleep.
Do you think it gets to a point where you're not hearing what's on the radio, you're hearing what's in your head?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
You know, there's a psychological element to this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But still, when the questioner's asking questions and you're responding directly, you can't hear them, right? You're isolated from them and you're having a full conversation. I mean, it's a really weird thing.
Yeah, it is.
Like something's going on.
So what do we dislike about this? You don't always know who or what you're talking to. I mean, you could ask for a specific spirit, but there's really no way to verify that or validate it. It does kind of feel like cheating sometimes.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
It's like a way to get a connection quickly and you don't really have to work for it. You're just quickly like opening that line and it's right there and now you have access.
Yeah, I mean, we like to, when we do an investigation, we like to start with EVPs, maybe get the K2 meter out to see what's going on. Normally the K2 meter is just electronic noise in a building, right?
Right. Like if you want to talk to us using a cat ball or an EVP, then that's how we're going to talk to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk to us through an Estes method.
All right, but we like to use that last, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we have been doing. We don't usually jump right into it. It depends. It depends on what we're going into it with.
Yeah.
Like there's certain locations where like we've been having some conversations that are ongoing.
Yeah.
And the whole intent is to go up there and say, all right, well, this works there. So we're gonna strap in and we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Other places, new places. Yeah. We rely on other methods first before we do an Estes.
Yeah. I'm sure some of you may also be skeptics to this method.
Hey, try it out though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. Anybody who's a skeptic, try it out.
Yeah.
Watch Spirits of the Stanley, buy the equipment and try it out.
Right.
Borrow a friend's equipment if they have it. Anybody could do this. We're not mediums. We're not psychic.
No, we're not.
We're not self-proclaimed anything. We don't have special powers. This is just something that we learned and we use.
Right.
Anybody could do it.
And we've linked to a few options. I think there's an article, a podcast, and then the YouTube series. And I mean, they all include Connor, Karl, Michelle, either one or all of them, where you can directly get this information from. So,
and seriously, go watch Spirits of the Stanley. It's such an easy watch.
It is.
Every episode's between 5 and 12 minutes, something like that. I think the longest one's 15.
It's a great watch.
You can get through the whole thing in one night.
Yeah. So what do the skeptics say? They're saying that it's confirmation bias and apophenia, which is basically patterns in random data. So you're hearing what you want to hear, open to investigator interpretation in a way to match your narrative. Which, okay, but I also have to disagree with, because how are you matching a narrative that you don't know?
That is the whole point of the experiment.
Right, you're
the
out of it.
The point of the experiment is that they're taking all this stuff that we know, okay, EVPs, and I'm not saying that the voices you're hearing on a spirit box are EVPs, right?
Right.
I mean, in a way, yes, they are, right?
Right.
But you're taking ITC, these electronic devices, and you're taking this EVP phenomena and you're putting that together, and that's what you're using with the spirit box, right? Now you're taking the spirit box, you're isolating one person. So you have one person hearing that.
Right. And they're not hearing you.
And then everybody else asking questions. And that person that's isolated cannot hear you.
No.
So that's what makes this experiment not only important, but I mean, to be honest, it blows my mind, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're having conversations back and forth, you're only part of the puzzle.
Right.
When you're the receiver. There's two parts of this, right?
Yeah.
And they're completely isolated. How is it that you get these conversations, these back and forth conversations? It just blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So some say that you're also working backwards. So you're finding your narrative and then you're trying to find the evidence to support it, which I believe some people might be doing, right? They might be asking these direct questions like, you're sitting in a historic location and you're asking specific questions about the players, about the events, about, the timelines that have occurred there. But I mean, that's not how we approach things, right? And that's not how you should be approaching things. If you're doing something like this, if you're doing any kind of work like this, even if it's just, EVP work, even if you just have some of the toy light up balls out, you still shouldn't be asking these specific questions right from the beginning, right?
Right.
You need to find out, what are you talking to? How are they going to communicate with you? And, warm up to things about the scenario that you're in right at that time. So just say, do you want to communicate with us?
Well, I mean, give an example of how we start a session. What do we always do?
I'll ask, do you want to communicate with us?
It's not so pointed in the beginning, though, is my point.
Right.
It's more like general kind of questioning. Hey, is anybody here that wants to talk to us, who's willing to talk to us, right?
Right. What's your name? Do you know the year? Do you know the date? What's the year that you remember? Who is the president?
Yeah.
Just general questions that anyone can answer. And then let them take you to who they are, right? Let them say, I was killed in the Battle of Gettysburg, and then be like, okay, so that's where this is going,
Yeah. Let them kind of lead a little bit, or wait for them to lead into it.
Yeah. Let them get you to that narrative, right? Don't take them to it.
You don't want to lead the conversation, is
Right.
basically what it is.
Right.
See what they want to talk about, not what you want to get from them.
Right.
Talk to them like
A person.
a person, like you'd be having a normal conversation with anybody.
Right. You're not going to jump down their throat like you're interrogating them.
No.
You're going to warm up to those kind of things. Or you're going to let them lead the conversation and determine what is safe for them to discuss with you, what they're comfortable telling you.
I do find it interesting that we rarely get a name, though.
Nobody likes to give their name to us.
No. Other things, though, like you could talk about numbers and all of a sudden numbers start coming through,
Yeah. You get a lot of numbers.
Yeah, a lot of numbers.
And finally, they're saying that this is open to radio interference, right? Regular radio sounds, which I think is fair. But also at the same time, that's not really what you're listening for. You're listening to the voices in the static, the voices between the stations. You're not listening to what sounds like a radio DJ or, a line from a song and then, a sports announcer to get you to say, like, I was killed here.
So that's the thing. I say that a lot. I'll tell you when I come out of a session, be like, hey, in the beginning, I heard them say this, but I could tell it was radio.
Right.
And you get mad at me.
I say you should say everything that you're hearing.
Everything you hear. And for me, when I first start, it's really hard to me to separate myself, from knowing that this is a radio. It's sweeping through stations. You're going to hear those things, but like I said, as I go further in, that stuff all becomes noise to me. And I'm picking up on more of like the subtle stuff that's kind of happening in between the layers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's also critics that will start to talk about the sensory deprivation that you're putting yourself in with the blindfold, with the headphones. It causes the brain to create its own perceptions, right? It leads to vivid hallucinations, audio, visual, kinesthetic, right? You'll start to feel your body parts move when they're actually not moving, right? So your brain, your neurons, they're still firing, but you have no input. So now your brain is just making it, right? So you're thinking you're hearing voices. You're thinking you're seeing things. When I'm in, I see a lot of visual things.
Yeah, you're visual.
But I think it's important to note that if you've experienced hallucinations, this might not be the right method of investigation for you. Maybe it's better for you to be the questioner than to be the receiver.
So how do you feel about stating what you're seeing? If you see like a vision, something's coming right up in front of your face.
Oh, yeah, you have to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't get that a lot. Sometimes I do, and I'll say it, but I won't say anything unless it's like really like jarring, like if it rattles me, you know what I mean?
Or obvious and like relating.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll always say it because you have to think about it too, right? Like think of all the clairs, right? There's clairaudient, there's clairsentient, there's, there's clairvoyant. Right. There's I think there's like 7 different types. So, while you're in this trance-like state and you might be hearing the voices in the radio stations, I might be seeing the visuals. Someone else might be experiencing different feelings that are overwhelming them, and that's the way that they're experiencing it.
How does it relate to the experiment, though, the actual Estes method? Are you supposed to be saying what you're feeling and what you're seeing?
I feel like you should. I feel like it all kind of relates to itself. Now, I don't think it's anything really that I've ever heard Connor, Karl, or Michelle talk about where you should be saying...
They do it in the Spirits of the Stanley. I'm only saying that because I watched it recently. Before we recorded the episode, actually, I just wanted to brush up on it. But yeah, there were points where, like, I think Michelle said that she saw something come out in front of her face.
Yeah.
I think it was Michelle anyway. I could be wrong on that. I do know that they do mention when they feel like they've gotten touched or they have a sensation that they mention it. So, but that might just be part of the experiment when they started doing the Estes Method.
Right.
I think they're a little more
fine-tuned in it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's been, 10 years?
Yeah.
So I think if we're going to talk about the Estes Method, we also should be talking about the Ganzfeld experiment and just kind of touching on that to kind of help you understand what that is and that there is a difference between the two. So psychologist Wolfgang Metzger introduces the concept of the Ganzfeld effect in 1930. Ganzfeld is a German word and it means whole field. This is referring to an unstructured, uniform space, and it covers your entire visual field. So not only what you're seeing directly, but your peripheral as well. Experiments on the Ganzfeld effect have been used to investigate telepathy and hallucinatory states. So some people do it just for the experience, right? They really just enjoy the experience. And others might think of it as a drug-free way to be able to hallucinate.
Now, it's important to note that the Ganzfeld experiment is not just cutting off your vision, but modifying it, right?
Right.
So they're putting I've seen where they cut the ping pong ball in half.
Yeah, you could even buy specialized goggles now.
Oh, do they have them?
Yeah.
So basically, you're seeing red, right? They shine red light through those goggles or the ping pong balls.
Yeah. So one person is the receiver. They're exposed to white noise and red light.
Mm-hmm.
And the public came to learn of the Ganzfeld experiment when it was used to research ESP, or extrasensory perception. So again, there is one person that's the receiver. They're exposed to the white noise in headphones, and they're exposed to a red light within their visual field.
Now that white noise, is it switching? Is it going through? It's just
white noise.
White noise on, say, a static radio channel.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's
channel.
just white noise, just a static sound.
Okay.
So another person is the sender, and then they attempt to relay information to the receiver. So there are mixed results recorded, and the experiments are quite controversial. This has also been used to research hallucinations, and it's provided us information on how our senses, primarily our vision, function to detect different changes. So if you can see, your brain is going to use that input to make sense of your visual world. Mm-hmm. But then it will also use your conscious mind. So we're thinking that that's the point of the Estes Method. It gives your conscious mind a break, and it allows your subconscious mind to take over. So if you do the Estes Method correctly as the receiver, you're going to notice that you're in a meditative state, that you're in a trance-like state. And you'll notice that what you're hearing isn't necessarily on the radio. It might be between the stations. It might be in your head. You might start to see visions. And it's across multiple stations that you're hearing a whole sentence. It's almost like you're channeling a psychic power that you didn't originally know that you were capable of, but using this method may have helped you to become aware of.
I mean, it's interesting because I could tell you from experience, I don't notice, or I'm not sure if I notice I'm in a trance-like state.
Yeah.
As I think what a trance-like state should be.
Right.
But I get tired, my eyes get watery. I do feel disconnected.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I always experience every time I come out of it, I always ask how long I was in there.
Right. You lose track of time.
I lose track of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed about this experiment is that I do lose track of time. And I'm surprised sometimes when you guys say you were in there for almost an hour.
Yeah.
I'm like, no way. It felt like it was like 15 minutes.
And we try to keep it around 30 minutes. Like we try to end it within 30 minutes. But sometimes it's hard. They don't want to stop. Or you're like, all right, I'm going to end this. And then they just start really communicating with you. And you're like, I gotta keep going.
Or tell you they don't want to stop.
Right, right. And I think, too, the other important thing is when you're the person who is the receiver and you're the one wearing the headphones and the blindfold, if you're uncomfortable, if something is happening, you have the ability to just end it. Take off the headphones, take off the blindfold and say, I'm not comfortable or, You
have to look at it from a human standpoint, from ethics. Yeah, you just have to let the person know if it's their first time, hey, this is going to be a little weird. This is a little loud. It's going to feel like, like a lightning bolt through your ears. You know what I mean? At first. Right. But at any point where you feel uncomfortable, feel free to tap out. No one's keeping you there.
Especially when you're looking at the possibility of it making you feel isolated or you feel a little bit more vulnerable than you would in the natural environment.
Oh, I've always felt like that when I'm in it.
Yeah.
Always. Like I feel like I know there's people outside. I know you guys are out there and you're asking questions and you're standing around me.
Yeah.
and I know I'm in good hands, right? I can trust you guys. But there's always that thing in the back of my brain that's like, I feel like I'm alone here. It makes you feel alone.
It does, yeah. It really does.
Yeah.
And I always think, like, what would happen if you went into a situation like that and something happened and everyone just left and you were just sitting there?
That'd be awful.
Right? And like, how do you know? Like, you don't know what's happening around you.
Yeah.
Like, you're so vulnerable and you have to really, really trust the people that you're with.
Oh, the other thing too, recently, we've been going to a location that we would go at almost sundown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would go in while the sun is still up
Yeah.
and come out when the sun is down.
Yeah.
And that's a real shock.
Or the time that we went at sunrise and you went in and it was dark and
it was
came out
late.
with the sun up.
That's a shock. Yeah, that one's actually worse, I think.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Yeah.
That's like physically worse because when you come out of it and you take the blindfold off,
Yeah.
you are
Trying to adjust.
hit with all this light and having to adjust. Going from light to dark the other way around,
Yeah.
it's not as jarring, but psychologically it does a little something different to you.
Yeah. You're expecting to come out in the light.
Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I could imagine that. I also think it's important to just add a disclaimer that if you are experiencing any type of, mental health symptoms, if you've already experienced hallucinations, if you've been diagnosed with, any type of condition that might make you vulnerable to these things, possibly even seizures. I mean, I would say maybe just being the receiver is not an option for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe, just remain the questioner and kind of make that your role, which is where I am, and I'm okay with that. I think
You're a
do
good
pretty
questioner,
well with
though.
questions. Yeah. I mean, we have some good conversations.
Yeah, but I think you talk to whatever it is we're talking to, you talk to it in a way that is professional. It's something that you learned as a social worker professionally.
Yeah.
And I think that makes you more approachable in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that actually helps because we've had some really good conversations.
Yeah. And it does eventually become a conversation.
Yeah.
I like that too, where it's, like you're communicating back and forth. Not so much like a question and answer, I wouldn't even say. It's just an actual conversation.
Yeah,
Where
like a real-time conversation. It's not ask a question and then 3 minutes later get an answer. It's an actual real-time conversation.
Yeah, like one person talks and then the other and then the other and then the other. It's like...
Which tends to happen with this method a lot, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we like it a lot.
Yes,
yeah.
And the other thing that helps, we've noticed, is if you have a connection between the two people, the person that's questioning and the person that's receiving. If they have a good relationship, you typically get better communication.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
There's like a psychological connection there, I think.
Yeah, almost like a psychic link.
Yeah, it's really weird because it's like you talk about being married, right? And how you finish each other's sentences after, being married for so long. It's kind of like the same thing going on
it's
there.
Similar.
So,
yeah. I think, too, something that's really interesting to note is despite all the times that we've done these, we've never made contact with deceased loved ones.
That is a good point.
Right? That's really interesting. And we've been in situations where people are saying they are making contact with deceased
your point, though.
loved ones.
I don't think we've ever gone into it with that intent.
No, we haven't.
We haven't targeted that.
No, but we've been in a number of public investigations where people are not going in with that intent. And
It happens.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's interesting to consider.
I'd like to thank Connor, Karl, and Michelle for developing this method.
Yeah, for putting the time and the energy into it.
Being very transparent about it. Basically telling everybody, hey, try this at home. Anybody could do this.
Yeah,
It's a really interesting experiment.
it really is.
And like I said, for you guys listening, I think you should all try it. Get those headphones, get the spirit box, borrow some for your friends.
Find somebody you trust.
Yeah, see what happens. So, Gabrielle,
Yeah.
where can our listeners find us?
Podcastoftheparanormal.com.
And we'll have our episodes on there.
Yeah, you can listen wherever you listen to your podcast.
We'll have our social media links in the footer of the page and use our contact form.
Yeah.
If you want to come on for an interview or tell your story.
Yeah, definitely reach out. If you're not comfortable giving your name, we can change it. We can read your story so you don't have to come on if that's something that makes you uncomfortable. But we'd love to hear from you. If you've used the Estes Method and you have some stories about it, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Ooh, that's a good topic. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear some of those. I'm kind of really impressed with this method, and I love watching other people do it.
Yeah.
I just find it so interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's almost addictive, which is...
It is, yeah.
Maybe a little bit of a red flag, but remember to like, share, tell your friends about the podcast if you like it.
Yeah. Send us feedback. We'd love to hear from you, what you think, what you'd like to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to get that algorithm flowing, right? Get more listeners.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time and listening to us. We appreciate it.